Hey, it's Shabes, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week from the 24th of January to the 31st of January. Why is it getting so hard for me to say dates now? I don't know. I need to give some context before we start. I've done 2 really long nights with Pokemon Arceus. Like, I stayed up till 4 a.m. 2 nights in a row playing it. And then my back is very sore from shoveling yesterday. And then today I had to finish, because I played Arceus basically all day for 2 days. I had to finish all my closed caption work today. And so I didn't get to start watching the digest videos until about 5 p.m. And now it's 9:30 p.m. So if it feels kind of curt, I don't know, in terms of like mentioning the videos or whatever, then that might be why. But thankfully there's a lot of things to talk about, so I don't think it'll be such a dry digest. The first thing I did want to mention, because I don't know how, truthfully I don't know how much it's going to help, but I was suggested that I should probably talk about it, even though there's no video I can link you towards. There's a creator called Suede, and I'm pretty sure he was one of the Channel Awesome people. I know he's made content with Bennett for a little bit. I might be wrong about that, and I apologize if I am. He's had a really rough week or two. From what I understand, he got a cease and desist letter, like not even just like a YouTube takedown or anything, but just like a straight up cease and desist, like pay this company $1,000 or face significant legal action. I've never seen that before. That's really frightening. His channel was like in threat of being completely terminated. As of right now, I'm recording, and now let me refresh. Yeah, his channel is still up, but there are no videos. I think all the videos are either unlisted or privated. It just says this channel doesn't have any content, but his channel still exists. So that's something. But yeah, it's a really terrible situation. I don't know how much of a reach Digest is really going to have to let you guys know about it, but certainly I think as much noise that gets made about this, maybe something happens, because we could try to have more of a happier ending than what's currently happened with Totally Not Mark, which is the other bit of information. I don't really want to put it in like a not decent, like whatever. Although there was really a funny situation where he or Dragon Ball Abridged was like trending for a little bit on Twitter because people were getting mad that Mark made this comment that like Dragon Ball Z Abridged was the thing that kept the fandom alive in that period between dry spells of content. I think between, I don't remember if there was any other content after GT, but between then and Super, basically, there's been this really dry spell, at least in the West, and and he mentioned how like he mentioned that in this video about his update for the for all of his videos getting taken down, and I didn't talk about it at Digest because it literally, I think he made the video, his first video about it, the day after Digest, or the day after I recorded, I think. And then within like 2 days or 2 or 3 days, the whole thing had completely blown over. It really blew up. Like Philip DeFranco was talking about it. PewDiePie was talking about it. Anime Man was talking, Moist Critical was talking about it. I've never seen that before, Our space has never had attention like that before. I think PewDiePie talked about it. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, massive. And then just kind of the probably the immense pressure he felt about the whole thing, and the stresses, and it was Christmas time. Mark just kind of shut it all down, kind of just stepped back. We're holding off. We're radio silence, basically. And that was it for about a month. And then he posted this update, and YouTube's been working behind the scenes. It turned out that Toei went through the kind of illegal not illegal, but like it was a wrongful, like breaking their terms, YouTube's terms of service, basically. So with that, that justification, YouTube was able to make an exception for Mark, and because this was the solution existed, but he just didn't have access to that. And so basically YouTube seems to have made this justification of like, oh, look, Toei did these unlawful things, not unlawful, but like, it broke our terms of service. So we're going to make an exception for Mark and block all of his videos in Japan. So the vast majority of his videos are back. I don't think all of them are, but I'm pretty sure the majority of them are at this point, which is excellent. It's great to hear. Seems like pretty much a happy ending. Although it does make you want, interesting, and it is sort of a for now kind of thing. But just to bring it back to Suede, for what's happening with him, I've never seen this before. I've never heard of this. It's bizarre. I don't know how much stink you could make, because what do you tell Team YouTube about this outside letter you received? About your videos, and how does that work? It doesn't even have to do with it's very bizarre, and I don't know what the course of action is on this. I'm hoping any support kind of goes his way. If he asks, I don't think he's asked for anything like that. But he's just sort of just trying to reconcile and fight it right now, or just kind of be like, make heads or tails of it, it seems. He said that he was writing a script where kind of being like, this can happen to anybody, this is coming, this is what's gonna, if this goes through, type of thing. And seems a little fear-mongery a little bit to me, just as an outsider. It does look very frightening and weird and insane. I'm just kind of baffled by it, I guess. But yeah, I mean, fair about making that. Well, if that video ends up being made and comes out, I'll talk about it. But for now, I did want to address it, because I think it was, I was totally, I hate to just be like, I just want to be honest, I'm not going to try to make it like it was my idea. Usually I talk about videos and stuff, and I try not to address like outside drama, even though there is drama to be had. I mean, there's plenty to talk about, but I'm not going to, for the most part, right here, right now, type of thing. But yeah, just want to mention that, and Mark's situation as well. Like, all that has happened within this week. It's already a crazy situation, among other things, which I'll try not to talk too much about. Okay, and now for some videos I thought were decent. They're pretty good. And this first one I wanted to shout out Simpuary. It's a new project or community effort being led by Adara from Fukuchi Twins. And yeah, so basically Simpuary is basically talking about making a video similar. It's really just kind of taking a lot from Novid, basically, with like creating their own videos on their channel, and then she'll talk about it at the end, and like this kind of a big talking them all as a group at the end, basically. And except the premise or prompt for this video project is, for the month of February, you talk about a creator, usually maybe for maybe the anime space, but it doesn't have to be, preferably a smaller one, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. But this is sort of like an outreach kind of love fest type of thing. And that, I mean, kind of the reason I do Digest is for that sort of thing, is to talk about other creators, talk about their content. I already saw a video from like 2 weeks ago. It was obviously not related to this, but it was a similar talking about Sun Wukong as like one of the best anime reaction channels, and that video was really fun and positive, and I enjoyed that a lot. I would love this to take off, and for some creators to go about doing that. Again, I don't know how big of a platform Digest can help with that, and I'm going to be very busy with my stuff. Although that's my thing, right? That my predicament is that it would be hard for me to make a dedicated video on my channel about one creator, because I talk about all of them. You know what I mean? And I do like a lot of them in particular ways, and I'm also like personal friends with a lot of them, type of thing. So it's I would have to be more of a neutral party in this instance, but I would love to see other people talking about other creators. I think a lot of others haven't looked into that space, or I don't even know how many of that's one of the issues that would probably come with this sort of project that be wary of, is just that not a whole lot of us are talking or watching each other's content. It's kind of an issue about it, and that's why anime YouTube feels so isolated, is because we kind of are isolated, you know. We make the content ourselves, a lot of us, or it's just us. Maybe we have an editor or something, but it's usually just the one person, and then we kind of just make our thing, and very rarely do we watch other people's videos. It's a common thing, and it's, again, one of the reasons why I make AniTube Digest, is so somebody's talking about them, I guess. But no, I really admire and love the sentiment behind this, and just talking and gushing about a creator they love, and watching their videos, and it gets through a good hard time in their lives or something like that. I think that would be really neat. If I was to do it, I probably would talk about a channel that is not an anime channel, or someone that I don't normally talk about on this here as is, that I watch constantly, and maybe talk about a little bit about that. That could be interesting. But they're also really big creators. I'm a very normie YouTube consumer, in my opinion, and then anime YouTube, I'm like in the weeds, you know. So it's difficult. I'm in a tough position. But yeah, I wanted to shout that out. I thought it was really awesome, that this sort of project. The other concern I'd have, and something to be wary of, is that, like, because of how limited your reach is at the moment, with just hitting 1,000 subscribers, there might not be too many people who end up doing this. And I'm just saying to, like, set your expectations at whatever they are, you know. Even Joe from Pause and Select got completely blindsided from how many submissions he had, because he was expecting like 4 or 5 or less, you know. Not that many, not 30. And I think that also for Joe in particular is because his content is so influential on a lot of us, that we want to make something that, you know, that when he's offering a challenge like this, we want to participate in it. In part because he's commenting on and talking about the content, because a lot of us look up to him in that way, but also just, you know, to show off in an indirect. Like, obviously he doesn't make this challenge for that. Like, no, obviously not. I do think there is that subconscious thing for some of the creators who've participated in the past 2 Novids, that, like, they don't normally make videos, but they're fans of Joe, and so if Joe's, you know, doing the thing, it's like, all right, make the video, you know, it'd be cool. And I love that personally. And it's great that Joe is able to have that impact and that reach. But, you know, I would just say that, like, in terms of yours, like, I love the sentiment behind it. I do think people should do it. But just set your expectations for how many people end up actually doing it. But I think it'll be a fun project. I'm happy you're putting yourself out there and issuing a project, a thing like this. I think for me, I'd be terrified personally of the things I just talked about, where it's like, oh, what if it, you know, it's only so many people or something, and like, or, you know, my own concerns, I suppose. I'm kind of just, I do digest myself because it's sort of just, that's just, I'll do it, you know. And I don't need to rely on a community or have, you know, but that's just me. I love that you're putting yourself out there and like, hey guys, let's do this thing, let's do this project. Bonsai, I just had a conversation with Bonsai Pop for this month's AniTube Tea on my Patreon, and they talked about how they wanted to get more into the anime community and do more of these community things, you know, and get more involved and have more connections, I guess. And I think this is a great step for that. So thank you so much for initiating this project, and best of luck with it, and looking forward to what comes out of it. I'll probably subscribe to a lot of the people, but maybe like a lot of super small people will see this and think like, oh, this could be my shot to kind of make some connections, make some friends, make some and make content too. You know, it's a lot of us. One of the problems, right, with making videos is that it's like, well, I don't know what to make a video on. You know, it's a creator's block. Totally. So this could be a good instance as well. Also a good challenge for people who have not talked about other YouTube videos before, perhaps. I talked about that a lot longer than I thought I would. But anyway, I do like this project. It's awesome. Nice. See, I enjoyed this episode of this episode. See, I enjoyed this installment of Explanation Point of the death of childhood. What is this, a TV show? Yes. The death of childhood in love, Chunibyo, and other delusions. Talking about finally talk about the Chunibyo thing, like kind of bouncing off of the sequel video that he talked about a while ago that I kind of gave a not good to. I gave it a not good. I wasn't a big fan of it, but that was 9 months ago. Jeez. And he did mention a little bit in his end of the video where this particular video was really hard to write, and because it's kind of in a personal place and a tough subject matter, but also he's been going through some personal stuff and some health stuff, and it's what it is. Yeah. But I'm happy to see him back. I'm happy he's not dead channel or anything. And not to shout out to all you dead channels out there. You're not dead. You're just waiting. You're just taking a break. You're good. You're good, man. This is anybody who's hasn't made a video in so long. Don't feel the pressure. If you just feel like you're just like, oh, I feel like making a video, just came out, and people be, oh, you're still here. But anyway, yeah, but I haven't seen Chunibyo personally. I've only seen some other videos of it, including Ian's video on Chunibyo, and I really enjoyed that video. Although I can't use the information in that video to see either support or refute the things that Explanation Point is saying in this video. I do think it sounds to me that he is sort of like following through with this idea that he had about Chunibyo that he was expressing in that sequels video, but actually going forward with it. And I much prefer this kind of analysis, especially from him. I think he has a very interesting perspective, and his editing was not too bothersome this time. I do think he is putting a little more thought into the visuals personally, where like there was just something about it that felt less obnoxious. There wasn't as many stacking on top and making a mess of things, not making it chaotic, right? Or syncing it to every bit of the sentence sort of deal. I think there was a bit of a slower, methodical pace. I think there was an actual thought to some of the compositions that he was making. I think some of the visuals that he's describing, I think it is interesting. I like some of the images of like it was like one of the characters is like pointing at something, and it's a galaxy, and it's a bunch of One Punch Man characters or something like that. And I don't know, there's just something imaginative about this style. Don't get me wrong about that. I do think there is something special about this visual style. But I just think it needs to be steered in a good direction or kind of refined in a way. And I think he is starting to refine it. Yeah. Again, I don't have too much to say about the content in terms of like accuracy or whatever. I did like that he mentioned that it was kind of coming from a bit of a personal perspective. He starts the video talking about how he was that kind of chuny, kind of like dorky kid in the playground making up stuff, whatever. It reminded me of this personal I did that as well, actually, although I didn't have that word for it, right? None like I feel like a lot of kids probably did this, but none of us called it a chuny or something. But what mine was is that my friend was a dragon master, and I was a cyborg. That was my thing. I was a cyborg. I wasn't like a Teen Titans fan either. I don't remember where I got. I think it was because I was a big Bionicle fan at the time. If I'm thinking about it logically, 2003, 2004, when I was in second and third grade at that period, I know the technology sort of thing was really cool to me. So that could probably be why. But yeah, I had a similar sort of thing. And then he shares that story of his friend didn't want to do that anymore. Although I think it was interesting that he's presenting something in his visuals where the friend is like, oh, World of Warcraft just came out or whatever, and so I'm playing that instead. And then the narration is like, he didn't want to play with me anymore. And I'm like, it sounds like you're making a more rational observation in the visual. It's like he probably just wanted to play this game. Like there's reasons for these things, right? And especially if he was going into D&D. It's not into D&D, but like playing World of Warcraft. Like, why do you have to do that outside? Like some people go that far and still do LARPing, and it's a great community. It's a really interesting hobby, but not to downplay it as a hobby, right? I feel like when you use the word hobby, sometimes people are like, oh, it's a hobby, kind of downplaying it, kind of throwing a little shade a little bit. So I don't mean to do that. I don't know too much about the thing is what it is. Interest. You know what? Interest is a much better word. It's more neutral. Yeah, let's say that. But it makes sense why he wouldn't want to just do that. Maybe he just wasn't in his comfort zone or whatever, right? Or he's like, oh, I'd rather do this thing where it actually presents this whole world to me, and I don't have to make things up. It's just there, and I can be entertained by it, and not simply kind of be subservient to it, I guess. Or just like, I have to create this rationale, and I'm on my. It's kind of lonely when you think about it. I haven't seen the show or how they address this particular thing, but like the way they kind of make these characters up and they make the story up as it goes along, I imagine it can be kind of difficult because you really it's about, kind of the more effective things is sharing that with somebody, and if it's kind of just all in your head, it's really difficult to get further enjoyment out of it. Your enjoyment can only go so far. Personally, maybe some people are cool and they are satisfied enough with that, but I think that would have been my limiting factor, is that I have these great ideas, but they go here, and I can't go further than that without significant effort, and belief in that story, perhaps, that other people would enjoy it. Anyway, interesting topic. I liked that he was a little more raw and personal with it, and I didn't think the editing or the jokes really weren't too obnoxious. There was one self-deprecating thing that I was like, but it was okay, because it's about the analysis of the blonde-haired character. I forget her name, and he's like, it's one of the most annoying, like that word, like he kind of like bitches about her, and he's like, he makes this analogy. He's like, oh, if someone paid me $200 to spend an afternoon with her, I'd ask them to convert the $200 into quarters so I can fill it into a sock and beat them over the head with it, and then beat myself over the head with it. Okay. Like, I guess that's your sense of humor. I don't know. It did remind me that, but then he contrasts, was like, but it is one of my favorite characters. This is the best character of the show, kind of thing. And like subverting that expectation. And I get it. I've done that myself in my Doremi video, where I have the main character be the last character I talk about by kind of throwing shade on the fact that she would lose this fictional race between all of them because she tripped and got lost along the way. And I call her I kind of front load it with all of her shortcomings. But I'm not just, but like, I would argue that I'm not just saying those things to kind of like, she's annoying or something. I'm literally giving a bunch of evidence and clips from the show that she is habitually lovesick. She does these silly things. She's extremely clumsy. She's super unlucky and self-deprecating. And I'm giving evidence, like a montage of clips, every single example. And I'm not just kind of like giving her shit, I guess. So I think there is that sort of difference in approach, I suppose. I don't know. There's just something when I talk about explanation points videos, I always feel like I'm able to get closer to articulating kind of the skill and the practical, I don't know, the technical aspects when making a video and addressing an audience and making this sort of stuff. I think he lends to much better conversations ultimately, which is why I still like watching his videos, even though it's, his style isn't for me, or whatever problems I've had with him in the past. I've always felt very constructive in the same way when I'm able to talk about his stuff, besides just like, that was nice, I liked it, but yeah, I did enjoy the video. It was good. And Noralities also had a good video, healing atmospheric anime, and throws the word yashike in there, and I like that she was like, the the definition and what counts is a little nebulous, and I'm like, good, don't bother with it. It's okay. I want to make this point before, if in case I forget. But with Hazel had a similar point in her video about anime RPGs where she's like, I'm not gonna get into the ethics of emulation, or she gives like a long list of like talking the arduous task of talking about video games and how exhaustive it is. That was just something that reminded me of this that particular point. But yeah, I like the approach with quarantine, and the thing is, right, she has this really good skill with like being able to draw, and so she has this really fun image of her doing like the Shinji with in the chair with the head in the knees type of thing, cutting back to that image to kind of illustrate visually and not just kind of verbally of the how shitty these past 2 years have been for most people and for her, in terms of the world climate and things. And yeah, kind of taking it from that angle and being like, here's some shows, and this is like a recommendation video of sorts. And so I'm like, cool, that's great. I am more than happy with making a video like that. I think her argumentative videos are very interesting and something to kind of dissect. But they, they can have their moments. But this one's just a consistently nice time. I do really like her delivery and her writing and sense of observations, even though that when it can lean on some things that she doesn't like, it can be like, okay, and sometimes it feels like kid gloves in terms of, because she knows her audience is very like sensitive, I guess. And so they're like, look, it has some body horror, and it's nice that she's giving them that warning. And I'm not saying that she shouldn't, but it's just like every time it's noticeable when she's making the like couching all like everything has to have a yeah, but and then like some little thing about it. Not a fan of that. Like just give oodles of praise if the point of this, right, is to what I will say, she does not do that for Moomin at all. And there was opportunity for that, where it was like, oh, don't watch the old show, only 25 episodes of Tanashi Mumanika are subbed, and the rest of it's just dubbed and kind of in a weird, like, you could nitpick about that, right? But why? Why? Literally, why would you do that, right? Thankfully she doesn't. And then I just feel like there's a slight nitpicking, something like talking about like the 04, like she mentions YKK, good taste, good pick, really like the analysis of the OVA there, although I don't know why she kept going and was like, yeah, there's this OVA that was made a couple years later and it's not as good, for such and such reasons, the visuals and things like that, it's DigiPaint, like, yeah, okay, as well as the manga mentioning it, but like oh, it goes a little too far in places. I'm like, okay, why? I don't know, it feels like it undercuts the recommendation when you do stuff like that. I love recommendation videos, but it's just like that's just a kind of a strange call for me personally. But maybe you just kind of have to be transparent and honest. You don't want to misdirect your audience in some way perhaps, and can't not mention it, so sure, fair enough. But I still like this kind of content from her. Again, I think her taste is great, and I really like her presentation overall. Like just the her writing and delivery of things, I think, is good. It's just I've talked about her stuff in other places, but it's similar to Eye Patch Wolf, where if they're being negative, it's kind of rough. It's kind of not fun to watch, but it's not for this case, so of course I liked it. Beyond Ghibli had a good video for Panama Inverted, and more particularly the creator behind Panama Inverted. I forget the name, I'm sorry. But it was the also creator of Pale Cocoon and Time of Eve. And I don't remember why I watched Cocoon. It was just it's like a random OVA. I don't know why I watched it. I did watch it, and I don't remember almost anything about it. I don't know. I did watch it. I was like, I don't know why I haven't. And then Time of Eve as well. I enjoyed it. And Beyond Ghibli, Joe really enjoyed Time of Eve, as he was telling me. And he's like, should I just break this and just make this a whole like a time of year. I was like, nah, you can save it. It's okay, whatever. But like that's cool. That's exciting. But I really liked that approach. From that auteur creator perspective type of thing. I feel like if you brought in a little more of the art, that person's perspective, like maybe the director, like some quotes and things like that, or do a little more outside research about the film, I think that could be really interesting, especially when you're going out of your way to analyze the director's other works. See if there's like an interview with him and see what he talks about these films, and maybe it gives you a different interesting perspective, right? Yeah, I don't know. I do think that like you can only go so far deep for a video this long, but that's okay. Like I think it's nice that Joe kind of makes these like shorter videos in kind of integrated with his longer videos, his longer content. I get it with YouTube and things like that. But I did feel the length on this one in the way, not like a length as in like, oh, it's too long. I felt like he was already kind of moving on and talking about the visuals, and I was like, oh, is that it? This is like the little casual observations, I guess, but feeling, when I'm saying falling for Pattern Inverted, it's, again, Joe's trying to make the more holistic video, and trying to cover the whole thing, almost like a review of sorts. And I think it worked really well for some films that are really under the radar, like Giovanni's Island, for example, where some people have probably never even heard of it. Patam is in a weird place because it's like, yeah, it's not Shinkai, like it's not a popular film, but I mean, also a fair amount of people know about it, at least, right? So I don't know. It was just kind of a interesting middle ground here. So I did come away from like not feeling I got enough enough knowing about Padma, perhaps. But it's still a good video in the ways of, again, Joe's general video craft with like the masking with the text. The text integration is really, really cool, and flexing, but as well as just being able to talk about the director and giving a name to that person, right? And linking it to some of his other works, I think is really interesting. And that idea of connection, really, really cool. Yeah, I enjoyed the video. It was fun. Fisticuffs from Don Chang. It's tips for animating action and fight sequences. I think the thumb could be better. I mean, I'm not a thumbnail expert. I'm just saying it's just kind of a anime screen cap. Not like kind of a. Anyway, sorry to start it with that. I just noticed it, really. It didn't matter to me much. I knew it was just Don Chang talking about action animation, and I thought that was an interesting perspective. Because if you don't know, he's a Canadian-born animator who's working on real anime, and so he uses two cuts that he himself worked on, from Decadence and Dr. Stone, and talking about his philosophy and kind of perspective and why it looks the way it does. So it's only 6 minutes, but he's breaking two shots very closely down, even showing some of the, I'm going to get this wrong, I think it's the Genga? I think it's that, like, the initial, with the lines and things like, with the lines, with the drawing. I'm pretty sure it's Genga. But he's, showing, basically he's showing you a perspective that, like, it's not just some schmuck just talking to you about this, right? It's not like me. Hello, I am schmuck. Hey, it's schmuck. No, I'm sorry. Please don't use that. And yeah, it's not just some guy talking about and analyzing the scene. It's the animator being like, yeah, so I did this. See how long I this entire shot is basically the wind up to this punch, and and oh, here we had to make a smear because the guy's movement is so fast that it's just an arm, and that's to show the speed of it. So we had to put a smear to connect those two things as an in-betweener type of thing. And then talking about it in that practical way. And it's like, I used reference footage. Here's the footage I used for this thing. And it's like, but it's so cool. And that's exactly the kind of perspective that Dong Chen can bring here that nobody else here can. And it's the kind of neutral, informative kind of perspective that is really valuable and not... I don't want to bring it. If you're on Twitter, you knew things happened, okay? Things happened. But it involved an animator, and they were talking shit about bigger anime YouTuber. And like, this is sort of my point with like, this is great. This is the kind of stuff that is additive, right? It's you know, I would want to see an animator give their insight on the industry, and YouTube is a great platform for that because they're able to visually show you the thing. It's a visual medium, right? You're not just talking about it, and it has a much chance of wider shareability. You can just send people this link instead of like a Twitter thread. Not to dunk on the you know, animators some more or anything. I really want to move past it. Honestly, I felt bad for everything that happened, and I'm sorry if I'm talking in vague everything, but I don't want to dwell on it too much. But it is something that I did get reminded of just now talking about Chang, because this is a very unique perspective for him. It's like, literally, here are the cuts that I did, and I'm talking about them, you know, and just here are some tips. Even if they're like, even his audience is never really going to do animation on this caliber, but maybe they will. Maybe this will actually inspire them. That's actually really awesome, right? It's a great perspective. So anyway, I'm trying to drag in like this. I don't know. I just love this. I'm really happy he made something like this. But, you know, it is short. It's not like he's really rapid firing and feels like it's very, whoa, I feel like I could make a whole fight scene. He really kind of just talks about some punches. He's like, here's one punch. It's just the wind up, the thing, and then the follow through. Then here's a second cut, and then that's it. And it's just very small, and it's you know, nice tight package. But again, the real standout thing is the fact is like, yeah, this is the real bit of anime that, yes, I worked on. it was clear, and here's the things that I did and everything. It's awesome. Anyway, yeah. Lowart, we gotta talk. Yeah, so I read Naruto for the first time in 2022, and it was ... a complete review of Naruto. Thank you. Thank you for making it exactly how I think we would expect you to make something like you're the FMA guy, you know? You're the textual analysis guy. Like, I think you're very reliable to be giving this kind of content, and I'm thanking you for it so that I don't have to make it for my Naruto video, because nothing. So what he talks a good deal about the first chapter, a little bit about the second chapter, not as much about the third chapter, kind of glosses over, and then does the Land of Waves, which, you know, is kind of a lot to you know, to go into holistic detail of in a 16-minute video. I really liked the analysis in that first chapter. I think probably the best because of the amount of information you were giving. And then the rest of it was kind of serviceable and fine, but there was a lot going on in Zabuza, right? And I'm just saying that it is nice that this sort of textual character, this is the core themes of Naruto, right? I'm like, great. I don't have to do that. Yeah, I can just talk about whatever it is I'm going to talk about, which is different. A lot of different stuff. And it's also nice where, like, you and I both you read all of it in 2021. I watched the whole anime in 2021. So my perspective is a little different. But I like it's, you know, I don't know how I feel about this, where you don't really give your opinion of how you like Naruto. You say you have a lot of things to say about it. I wonder, are you one of those people that love how it starts in the first couple arcs and not so much the rest of it? This is the impression I was getting based on your little subtweet about, not so subtle subtweet about Sakura. I guess that's a take. It's not the approach it's not the approach I'll have. I think I want to be kind of upfront with my audience. Again, I'm not trying to talk down to you or anything, but like, I think for me, I would be, as an audience member, I'm constantly thinking, okay, what does this guy really think about Naruto or about this show, especially as someone who loves it. I'll be clear, but so for me, my video, the first sentence I say, I loved it. I loved the show, the whole thing. Like, even the filler, I talk about the filler. I talk about this other, a bunch of stuff. But like, in the end, Naruto's great. Naruto's awesome, you know? And kind of teasing the audience of like, it was in the title, and I have a lot of the way you say is like, and I have a lot of thoughts about it. I'm very similar. I also have a lot, so I found this very relatable in that way. But I appreciate the direction you're taking this with, and also that you're releasing it in pieces, which is very smart. I'm not gonna do that. Because I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot, you see. I am a schmuck, as alluded to earlier. It's gonna be a long video. I was thinking today, because my boss is starting to send me materials for this other project I'm going to be working on this year, which is really huge and really big and exciting. I was like, man, I'm going to release it in March. And then I started writing, and I was like 17,000. I was like 7,000 words deep or something. And I was like, make it April. And now I'm 23,000 words deep. And then I'm like, make it the end of the year. Maybe. Damn it. That's okay. We'll make it's going to be a big one. But I'm sorry to tease it a bunch of times. Anyway, I'll be looking forward to more and keeping an eye on this series. Oh, I did want to mention, I think this was your first like kind of face reveal. Like it's a mask, which is a Kakashi, haha. I was expecting more, actually. When it starts at the very beginning, that's what you're filming your intro, and you do a little bit of the ad read with that, and then the outro. And the majority of the video is very similar to the rest of your content. I was actually kind of hoping and wondering if that green screen stuff was going to be through the whole video. I actually think that'd be kind of interesting and different, because a lot of YouTubers are kind of doing the same style that you're doing, which is just, manga pages panning upwards, or downwards, or little, it's kind of standard, right? Or sometimes using some clips. But I was thinking, like, if there was that full, like, the camera set that's sort of similar to what Cineclinic is doing, but maybe but with that happening in the background as well, maybe that is literally doubling your work. But I don't know. I kind, or maybe at least sort of integrating it a little bit, maybe streamlining that background stuff, or I don't know. I think it'd be interesting, but maybe I can also see it being very challenging. So if you don't want to do that, that's fine. If it was just kind of a one-off thing, that's fine. But I just want to say, I think it was exciting to see that, actually. I was like, ooh, so something kind of different and challenging in terms of the presentation of the video. I thought it was exciting. I was just a little disappointed that it didn't last through the whole thing, I guess. That's okay. Not a big deal. Anyway, yes, thank you for for making this sort of thing. And then also, I don't have to use that title that you used. Now I can try to use something else. I'm not going to say what it is, because I don't want it stolen, and I also don't know if I'm not going to, like, say it in a video that this is what I'm going to use, and then months later I end up not doing it, right? So we'll see. But yeah, thank you. Well, it's already 45 minutes, and now I'm talking about the best ones. Great, never mind. I guess I was fine. I guess I'm fine. It's 10:30, and I'm still recording. It's fine. That's fine. And so there's a lot of videos that I thought were the best videos of the week. Those I thought were really good. Those are really, really, really good. Yes, very good. And this first one is from Under the Scope. UTS Awards, Best of 2021. The last one. Swan Song. I talked about this 3 years in a row. It's crazy, yeah. And Jack's been doing it for longer. Since 2015. 2015. Sheesh. This evolved throughout the years and stuff. I like the film category was its own thing that he spent a fair deal of time on and didn't mix them in, I think. I can still be kind of salty about giving Review Starlight, I think was it 3 awards? 2 or 3? You give Best Original Song, Best Director, and Best Animation. All 3 of those were like really strong, and Ongaku was nominated, and I was like, okay, at least it's not. I just have to be happy it was nominated. I should just be happy it's not. But it didn't get one. And then I was, and having seen that the review was sweeping the three of them, like 3 awards out of the 6 in the film category. I was just like, okay, I guess review just has best film. But no, and then it's Ava. Like, Ava wasn't even nominated for most of those. And then suddenly he's talking about Ava, and then Ava's best film. I'm like, huh? Like, fine. I love 3.0 plus 1.0. But maybe it's a little telling, because Ongaku wasn't nominated for best film anyway. So maybe just word into it. That's fine. That's fair. I just wanted to have that belly aching. If you can understand. But of course, went the way I was expecting. I think a lot of the awards went to places where I was like, good, yes, type of thing. It's like, I can read you like a book, or especially the anime of the year. I mean, it was. I would have been mad if it wasn't, actually. That's basically my anime of the year. Despite having not seen too many of them, I've really seen not that many. Should definitely get on some of these, but is what it is. But yeah, love the presentation as always. I wonder. It feels like, I think, nice reused assets from the previous one, which is definitely fair. Don't reuse the wheel if you don't have to. Like, why? And there's already plenty of work that he's doing, having to do all that clip selection and orchestrate it very adequately in terms of having the right soundtrack in each one and having it, not repeat a bunch of times. It's a phenomenal Herculean effort through editing, and it makes sense that you guys want to step away and do something else. Especially of having to watch a bunch of anime from 2021. Or from these previous years, and I can imagine wanting to step away from seasonal stuff. You guys lasted longer than I did. I was already kind of burnt out from, trying to watch as many seasonals as possible since like 2018. It's like, sheesh, forget it. But yeah, no, congratulations on another successful big video. I'm happy that it wasn't the last. I think naturally, with how infrequent your uploads are these days, which makes sense because you have a full-time job. Same, pretty much. Because of that, I was like, oh, last one of the year. Inevitably, the thoughts start. People was like, oh, is you good? Are you gonna do more or whatever? And it's like, it's not the end of the channel. It's like, okay. So okay, that's fair. But yeah, great job. I'm sorry I don't have too much else to say about it. It was a good job. It was good. I enjoyed it. This is a surprisingly good interview clip, a conversation with Kanichi Kurita, voice of Lupin the Third. It's only 3.5 minutes, and so I was fully expecting this to kind of just be decent if I talk about it at all, because it seems like 3.5 minutes is not nearly enough to get any real insight or anything. But leave it to Seiyus being the most professional experts at making good conversation and making good interviews, making things like worth listening to and making it interesting. I really liked that Kurita focused on the kind like he was giving credit to Kobayashi and the voice cast in general for Lupin, and how he talked about, he's like, I used to just be I used to just make a good Lupin impression, and then he's now been doing Lupin, I think, longer than Yamada ended up doing it, the original voice actor. And Yamada also was in far less content accumulatively than Kurita now. Kurita has done 3, it's close. I would say it is close. There are definitely a lot more episodes with Yamada, and then Yamada did at least 6 specials, but then Kurita has done at least 30 specials that are all an hour and a half, and then 3 TV series and a couple movies. Lupin's not slowed down at all since Yamada passed away. But I really like that he gave a lot of credit to Yamada's performance initially, and that sort of lore was really encouraging and interesting to hear about. And also giving credit to Kobayashi, who voiced Jigen. and how this was, the moment he was finally retiring, after playing the character for literally 50 years. Like the 50th anniversary of the TV series, and Kobayashi's like, that's probably a good time to step out. That's probably I gotta go. And also the fact that they made an episode, I haven't seen it yet. I should, obviously. I will, I still haven't seen part 6 yet. I'm waiting for it to be done. I don't want to just wait week to week. But the episode 0, which is like his send off and it's his last episode, I'm so happy he got to do something like that. No other voice actor is able to do that, and because obviously these sorts of things are not expected. You don't like retire from this sort of character. You either keep playing them until you or you die, right? So there's really, unfortunately, like this turned out to be his last performance, this role type of thing, which is, for some of them it's unfortunate because it's not the best. It's like, oh, that was the last one, damn. But this, it's like he really was able to have a last hurrah type of thing. It was great. Conceptually, I haven't seen it. I imagine it's great. But then him talking about that and his relationship with Kobayashi, and how like Kobayashi really acknowledged him and was, took him seriously, and like that really encouraged him, and like that was awesome to hear. I just loved it. I know it's really, really short. I'm basically summarizing the whole thing at this point, but no, I really enjoyed it. It was great. Loved it. At last, a new Otaku-Vs episode. Are you looking respectfully, Anon? And this is a very different approach. It doesn't, it's not continuing the narrative from previous episodes. And it definitely at this point is nowhere close to the kind of thing that he was describing to me when I first talked about Oda-chan 2 years ago. almost 2 years ago. Almost 2 years. It'll definitely be getting there soon. But jeez. And we talked about kind of the episodes that would be happening later on, but that ended up not being the case. And yeah, I love this thread that he posted alongside it, and that's why because of I use dark Twitter, but like more personal stuff. And he's been working on it for so long. He really lost his confidence in the ability to make cool aesthetic shit, which is really his thing. It really is the thing that that's his tipper, I think, is sort of the thing with, because anime, I think, has had a very long problem with, at least in terms of the proliferation in the community, right? It is cool. Like, anime literally is cool, but it's a matter of explaining that and showing that to people. That always seems to be the problem. It always seems to be the difficult part. And Yusuf makes it look easy. Like, effortless, frankly. Like, just so in tune and knows his stuff. I just love the cutaways in this episode of the album covers and things like, and promoting the merch in certain ways. Didn't feel like it was taking up the bulk of the runtime or anything. But what did take the bulk of the runtime is splitting it, is basically this is half the length of a typical episode, almost. Because the video is like, close to 10 minutes, but it's the same animation twice. One of them is with the Japanese audio and the other one is with the dub. And a very classic old school approach, actually. It actually, NEM, he uses a 4:3 aspect ratio for the upload of this, which is, I love that. I love that. I do that myself. Love that. And to give it that feel. And that's kind of what I don't know how many releases actually did this in terms of like old anime releases and things like that. But like the idea of including a dub and a subtitle of something, is sort of a newer concept, all things considered, because sometimes often back in the day, the physical formats, you could either have a movie dubbed or subbed, and there's two physical versions you'd have to have. And the dub is obviously what's going to sell more because more people are going to want the English. They're not going to want to do with the subtitles, right? It was a kind of a barrier for people for a very long time. But now it's like people want the sub way more, and the dub is like a dirty word to them, really, which is kind of a reductive position in my view, but that's okay. People are where they are. Cowards. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. It was right there. It was right there. No. But this has that similar feel where it's like, because the VHS of in the 4:3 aspect ratio, right? You say they replay the animation, but it's a dub and there's a sub version, and I think that's a really good approach actually, because there's two ways to enjoy this thing, and I think you kind of neatly it was probably a practical decision, because there's some people who like it dubbed and there's some people who like it when it's Japanese, and you probably couldn't choose between the two because they are both pretty good. I mean, the English one is really how you started it, and it is like the default sort of original, way of doing it. But the Japanese dub really lends itself to the authenticity of the thing, which is part of the reason you're making it, is to get as authentic as possible. And speaking of that authenticity, I did see some people, not mutuals of mine, but people I'm aware of that were part of your animation team for this one, that are working on it in season 2, which is exciting. There's something about the visuals for this one that, they're not flaunting. There's just something about it where there wasn't too much animation, but it was smart in that way. Because anime, I think one of the things that kind of has an advantage over a lot of Western stuff, to me at least, is they've really figured out a lot of they've really pioneered limited animation. You think of limited animation for the Western audience, and the equivalent of that is Hanna-Barbera with the Flintstones and Yogi Bear and all these other cartoons that are iconic and they are their own thing, but they're, and Scooby-Doo, of course. Like, these are really big IPs and they've lasted a long time. But the animation is limited, but in a way that is very super flat, I guess, or just very noticeable. You can tell, really. And but with anime, they've really managed to find particular tricks and still make it look really, really good and not feel like it's not animated, but like a lot of this it's one pose and the mouth's moving a lot. And that's it. And you just, that way you're able to focus on having a really good drawing, and making it look really good. And people still, and maybe there's some little, like, that's not how it works and things like that in there that I threw in. But hey, that's because I'm talking off the cuff and I'm not trying to source anything. This is just be from my experience, basically. But anyway, there was something about it that I felt like I did notice that the backgrounds were a lot simpler, right? It was mostly a black void, and then sometimes it was in a white void, right? There really wasn't too much to the production design in the same way. But I think that was smart. There was a lot of things about this I thought were smart. Again, the two like having the two, it increases your watch time potentially. Just be and we're able to smartly recycle this stuff twice. The ads were really sharp, and they were also cut in the middle, and they kind of used as like little beats, almost like stand up. There's a really great clip of a Bernie Mac stand up really early on where he's breaking up his jokes with this feature of the club that he's performing at, that he's just like, kick it, and there's like a little DJ beat that goes on, and he's kind of dancing to it, and then he cuts it and he's like, you don't understand, and he's punctuating each of his jokes and bringing his audience back in, or just like, that's the punchline, you get it, sort of thing. And so that sort of thing we were doing with the little cutaways with the promos and things like that. I thought it was a really smart way to do it, and engaging. It's funny. I also like how metatextual it was, and talking about it was like, oh, this will get 1 million views for sure. It's like, well, yeah. And talking about that sort of thing. And again, the thread that Yusuf wrote after the fact is so enlightening, and stuff that I really related to. When he's talking about how every video has to hit 1 million views, and if it didn't, it would drive him nuts. The shit wasn't healthy. I'd spend days, I'm reading from his thread, I'd spend days stressing, title, thumbnail, all that shit. If it didn't hit, I'd change shit over and over. There was crazy pressure for our shit to perform, to the point where I lost that passion that used to get my dick hard. Yep. Yeah, I hate the game. I hate it. I hate just stressing about like thinking you failed a video because you didn't title it right or give it the right thumbnail, right? I hate that. I hate that. Worst part of this fucking thing. I just want to put a cover on this thing and be like, I remember, like, it's the thumbnail really isn't even just for YouTube or for my audience to, please click on my video, right? People are going to click on it either way, right? I think it's ultimately the vast majority of your view, at least this is maybe my perspective, I don't know, but it's like people are going to click on a One Piece video because they're One Piece fans. You know? Like, who's going to click on a Berserk video? Berserk fans. And there's a lot of Berserk fans who want Berserk content. So, of course, it does well. It doesn't even matter how good or bad the thumbnail. Yeah, I guess it matters a little tiny bit. But for me, thumbnails, I like being able to look at the thumbnail and remember the video fondly. You know? And just be like it's literally the cover of a book, right? And it's like, oh, man, I love this book. Oh yeah, like, remember reading that book? Like, you hold it up and you're thinking about those points that happened in the video, or, you know, and just that's what it's for me. You know, it's not just like, I don't like it to just be as a selling thing, like and it just be just changed and scrapped at whatever because it's not working. You know, that just sucks. I hate it. I know that I'm kind of putting words in your mouth in that way, but I was, you know, he decided one day to say, fuck that. This year, this video, I did what I want and just didn't give a shit. I did what I thought was cool. And now you know, and you know what, boys? However it does, I'm happy as fuck because I love this shit again. Took me 2 years and 5 episodes, but I'm feeling it. Yeah, that's amazing. I'm so happy for that. It's one of the reasons really why it shoots up for me as one of the best videos I watched this week. It wasn't like the most like, whoa kind of video, like episode in the whole Oda-chan saga here. But in terms of the sentiment and the vision here, it's razor sharp, and I deal with it. I deal with it a lot. I fuck with it real hard. Very good job. A nice Get in the Mecha podcast talking about unskippable anime openings from 2021. And I wanted to mention it specifically because it was a little homework for me. Not for the 2021 openings, but for talking about openings in general. I wanted to see how Jamal talked about OPs that is specific, that, you know, how does it differ from typical OP analysis? Not like unlike you have to be different or something. I guess I'm using this as a platform to tease at my Naruto video where I'm having this whole section about OPs and EDs, and that's, you know, using them as the platform for me to talk about why I think OPs and EDs are effective. And I really like Jamal's observations for JJK with the use of using particular elements, like in this case nature, and, you know, using water in different ways and things like that. Of course, it's really important, and I'm happy that he gives a lot of credit to the people who directed these OPs, as well as the song composer and things like that. Giving credit where credit is of course due. But yeah, and then his approach, I think, is it's not targeted. I think it's just each OP is its own thing, and so he's like, these are the things I'm taking away from it, and giving these particular moments and things. I really like the kind of mission statement at the end, in a way, where it's like OPs should be treated as art and as something to be observed in the show. And I would actually want to take that one step further in terms of my approach to anime OPs, is that they should be appreciated not simply on their own, but diegetically within the show itself. How does it affect the viewing experience of the episode? How does it feel going on? Like, for example, where does the OP fit in a given episode? Does it start the episode and it's like, you know, press play and it's the OP right away? Or is there a cold open? And at what point does it transition into the OP? And how does that psychologically affect the rest of the show? Kind of what makes an OP watch it every time, or watch it once just for the, you know, out of obligation, just to see if it's good, perhaps, maybe even a couple times, maybe watch it like 2 or 3 times, just so, because sometimes an OP doesn't hit right away, and that's okay. It's like, I actually warmed up to this one, or whatever. Sometimes that never happens, and and if it's a think of the show itself that you're watching. If you're watching something like One Piece, and it just hit the boom to be continued, and you gotta see the next episode, you're not watching that OP unless it's We Are, which is why it's so incredible how good We Are is, because you still want to watch through that whole OP despite having to be chomping at the bit, wanting to see the next episode and see what happens, right? But like otherwise, you just kind of like skipping it if you don't, if you're not a fan of it, sort of thing. And so it's sort of that psychological relationship with the audience, and what are the various elements that make an OP watchable or attractive in that way on an entertainment basis. Well, I think the way Jamal puts it has a really good middle ground of sorts of relation to the show itself, where the OP informs the show and the show informs the OP, like in equal measure, whether that's through lyrics, through visual symbolism, through however it wants to do. There's a varied approach, and I think it's smart that Jamal has a varied approach when it comes to his analysis, giving these 3 different OPs, and each of them each analysis doesn't feel similar to each other. So I do appreciate that. Yeah. I don't know. I just wanted to talk more about that, and also give a little hints about how I'd be approaching this. What I take away from OPs, I guess. But I think it's important that I see other people's perspective, because maybe I'm missing something. Maybe it's like, that's probably a good thing to think about and talk about, really. And of course, Jamal always has really good insight about these things. Definitely check him out, and looking forward to more of his stuff this coming year. Now that I'm in tune with his material, I'm really looking forward to more close analysis of some stuff. Yeah, this is exciting. Cozy anime RPGs with Hazel. 2 hours and 16 minutes. And first of all, I did watch it kind of on the side as I was working on my closed captions, because otherwise it would be midnight right now and I wouldn't be done. It would have been real bad. Okay. I still don't know. I actually might have to delay this. If I did, that's why. You know why now. Anyway, that's not Hazel's video. So anyway, that's why I watched it as I was working. But I actually saw a comment, like literally one of the top comments was like, this is kind of a nice video to just do work on while things are happening. And I agree. Hazel's very meandery and just constantly cracking jokes and just kind of like making quirky observations and moving from game to game very kind of haphazardly and randomly, and going back to some games, and it just feels like a big haze of this subject. And I really fuck with it. I really admire it, actually, because the editing's very workmanlike. It's showing the relevant stuff with how freaking much material there is and how long the video is. Although she just still has the time to make some really playful edits with using this like stuffed animal. It's not animal, stuffed doll. I don't know the name of it. Core uses it as his profile picture sometimes, and it's very aesthetic. I think not really, but Eden kind of has something like that, but it's sort of different. I don't know. But that doll, I don't know what it is. Some sort of figure. Using that as like a proxy for her, and the IRL observation of like, all right, save the game, honey, and or the what level are you on? And it's like they don't have levels like that anymore. Like most games, there's no what level am I at, just like, yeah. And I think it made me think where it's like how we probably say it now is what part of the game are you on, right? It's not what level, right? Because it's not Galaga, as Hazel says. It's like this, it's not Galaga or something. But I did think at like now the way we would talk about it is like, oh, where are you at with that game? Oh, I just beat this dungeon, or I just beat this part, or I'm still over here, or something like that, you know. Although you don't say that for games like Animal Crossing, but since Hazel's mainly talking about RPGs, it's like, yeah, these are mostly story narrative based, so you can be like, what island, what part of the game are you on, type of thing. That'd be the kind of the modern hip way to make. That's just something I thought about. But yeah, it really just feels like kind of going on and just doing whatever and talking about stuff and just making the video, you know, making the vid. And it's inspiring for me because I feel like this is exactly what my Naruto video is going to be like. Where I have very dedicated sections where I'm only talking about this thing and I'm focused on it, and even has like a part one. I'm imagining it's like a part this, part that sort of thing. But you know, it's similar where it's kind of just can go on it's free to go on tangents. It's free to cut things short. It's free to make random observations, and it's a good video. It's very good vibes. It's long, of course, but you know, I'm not going to be like, it's not long in the way of like a Garfield video where it's worth it. He needed that length. Hazel definitely didn't need to make this long, especially like I think it's 30 or 40 minutes are dedicated to the last game, and it's like one of the last ones she played for this video. And I think towards the end, it's like, oh, I can't wait to finish this video so I can continue playing it. I'm like, you didn't even beat the game? Like, you talked 40 minutes about like the last big chunk of the video, and you haven't even finished it. And I was like really surprised by that. But in my case, it's like, oh, if this was the one you loved the most out of all the ones you've talked about so far, I don't know why she didn't just make this its own video. Like, wait, like cut that out, release what you have, and then make a separate video that also would have been an hour long, because, you know, 40 minutes already of material for a game you haven't even finished yet. And I'm sure when you finish it, you probably have more to say about it. So, like, yeah, that could have also been an hour long video. I don't know. That was just sort of a weird, it's not like a big deal or anything. But, you know, yeah, I was, really surprised by it. I love it. A lot of stuff is what I expect in terms of, you know, Hazel really is starting to use a lot of the same backgrounds, a lot of the same assets, and it makes sense. Although there's a really long tangent, and it's obviously because her patrons, she has so many patrons, and they're scrolling up like for like 5 or 6 minutes or something like that, a long time. And she uses all that time to describe what she's doing what she's using the money for, like using this particular device, talking about her equipment and how she edits things, like using a trackpad for something. It's like, oh wow, things like that. That was a nice insight. I actually really appreciated that. Did it have to be in this video? No. Or like the there's a big chunk of where she hands it off to one of her co-creator, like a podcast host that she's with, or a really close collaborator. And so he's talking for like 10-15 minutes about Shin Megami Tensei, and it's like its own video. And it's like, okay, why does it have to be in this video? It's just a lot of it. It's almost like Matthew Matos's micro videos, which is the kind of the impetus of my Naruto video, except my Naruto video is definitely not micro. I could definitely split all of these sections into their own videos, but where's the fun in that? That's the thing. At the same time, I love that Hazel does all this stuff. It's like, did that need to happen? Was like, this is something necessary? These aren't nitpicks for the sake of it. It's something I'm realizing, and I'm like, well, no, because the aesthetic is the video, the big chunker, you know, like, it's cool. I like that personally. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a good time. Fun. Oh my gosh, I'm so sore with my everything. Sheesh. But I'm gonna talk about this last one, and I'll make it kind of brief, I guess. Well, you know, brief as it needs to be, I guess. So I'm giving best of the week to CDawgVA, and it's his video. I became a pro anime voice actor in Japan, and it's over an hour long, and talking with. He goes to a real seiyuu school and interviews one of the teachers who is himself a seiyuu, and why does he teach and things, and another one of the students and their experience, as well as going to a real recording studio professional where they've dubbed they're dubbing anime. And he talks with the sound director. He does his own experience, and he also interviews one of the seiyus who's the lead of this anime, that he shares a scene with. It was only like a practice. I don't think he was in the real Japanese release of this particular light novel title, anime title, but he is in some anime dubs, for the record, which is really interesting. And he doesn't flaunt it at all. Like he's like, oh yeah, that's out. Like, you know, he's like, yeah, that's a thing. But it's his his job as a voice actor, you know, and something he's trained in. But the challenge with this video was that he does all of it, all the performing in Japanese, which he's not fluent in, not at all. Like he's lived in Japan for a while, but that he's only been taking classes up to that point since he got there, and so it's rough, right? But thankfully everyone's really cool about it, of course. But he is the shining thing with this video is not simply the access that he gets, and he's able to show us these sorts of things and talk about them and give it to his really big audience and everything, and making it really fun and interesting, but also it's just like so brave of him to do this, you know. Like not like a lot of us, right? It's one thing to interview these people and to visit and to talk about it, but like he injects a sort of tension and fun in participating in the class with these other students that are way better than him, as well as doing this line reading, or even there's also a chunk of the video where he does a demo reel in Japanese. He didn't have to do any of that, really not, and it would have been very valuable and interesting. But it sort of gives a particular kind of tension and intrigue and fun, excitement in the video, because it's sort of like, how good does he do? Obviously you're kind of on his side. He's obviously very deprecating, and like he's like, that wasn't very good, you know, and kind of making a fool of himself a lot. And this is emblematic of a lot of his videos like this, which are very big, diving into this particular Japanese experience that he has access to, due to his visa and everything, and working for Kadokawa. But like, it's not, like all of it's sort of indirectly relating to Kadokawa and their releases and stuff, but it's not like it's propaganda for their titles or something. He's using it as a venue to educate his audience and show them a part of Japan that's interesting, and making a fool of himself in the process. But like the fact that he's willing to do those sorts of things to further entertain his audience and kind of make it more interesting. And some people was like, oh, that's dumb, or I find that annoying or something, and that's on you. That's fine. I think as a video experience, I think it was really interesting and exciting. And I also just generally want to give credit to Connor here as well, for just being a great content creator. He knows his audience. He and I think he makes really good videos. But also, he's doing incredible stuff with his streaming. I actually ended up buying Jump King because of his VODs of playing it and stuff, and it just seemed like a fun game. And the things he's been doing with Iron Mouse is this other VTuber is really sweet. The other day, literally the day that all this shit was going on, which is the shit I was alluding to earlier, but I don't really want to focus on it all that much. Kind of the same day that was happening, he's going out into town with this VTuber who is, I believe she's Puerto Rican, but she's overseas. But even if she wasn't overseas, she has a severe medical condition that she can't leave the house, and she has to, like, people are donating plasma to her. Like, it's debilitating, like, never mind COVID, And so he bought this incredibly expensive streaming equipment to be able to stream like within like a backpack, and like being able to have all that set up and having a reliable Wi-Fi and internet connection to stream in a live setting like this, and just go around town and basically show this VTuber around. And they got fortunes together, and it was just a really cute, wholesome kind of date. It wasn't really a date, pretty much. You can read it that way. They don't read, they're not reading it that way, but it's sort of just like showing her around and stuff. It was so sweet. It was so nice of him. And he also actually he bought something for her, like a Kamen Rider belt, showing her the like this museum, and she's like, I love Kamen Rider. He's like, oh yeah, yeah. He doesn't know anything about Kamen Rider, nothing, zero, right? And so like he's like, oh, you're interested, and he goes over and I was like, you want me to get that? And it's like, oh, you got this. You know, he's being kind of an informed customer and stuff. And he's like, oh, I can get that. And she's just in awe and squealing and everything. And so I don't know. It's just like a really, maybe I don't know if I'm really just really doing it justice, honestly. I don't know. I just thought it was so nice and wholesome. And just he's a great guy. I don't know. And, you know, I could also, you know, I get it. I could also make these, because it's like, I was able to make contact with him and we're mutuals on Twitter and things like that. And so like that could lead to my bias or whatever. But honestly, no. I honestly think that like he's been making great content. I think he's been doing it really, really well. And it was just really unfortunate that like something innocuous, it's misinformation. Yes, it was misinformation. Okay. It was also innocuous, and he was making a compliment. I'm not going to say he was making a joke, because I know people get touchy about that. He was literally complimenting how good the show looked. And people just for the proliferating misinformation. Okay, sure. And then really shitty things happened that it's shitty everywhere. It's shitty all around. Shitty. Fuck Twitter. I mean, I love Twitter for, you know, certain facets and reasons, and people that are on there that I've met and love talking to, and seeing a lot of different art and funny memes, and it's like I love Twitter. That sucked. That was shit. I don't want to end the digest on that note, but like, yeah, that situation was awful. And I'm sorry if you're not like on Twitter and you don't know anything what's going on. Maybe someone in the comments will clarify or whatever. But like my server was all over talking about it, and I was kind of involved in some capacity, and I didn't like it. It wasn't fun. And I'm hoping everyone's better and we can you know, learn from it. I think hopefully. I don't know if it will. I think it just kind of divided people further, which is the last thing I want. It's just the last thing I want. Anyway, I think beyond that other stuff that you know happened with Kana this week, I still think this would have been the best video regardless because of just newly informative it is. I always lean towards the informative stuff, but also just the entertainment value and how, you know, the big how big it was. It ticks all the boxes for me as a video that I think is worthy of, you know, not worthy. Again, not like I try to make a big deal out of these best of the week type of things, right? But no, I seriously wanted to just I did want to talk more about this particular thing and use this as an opportunity to articulate my stance on these things. You can have problems. I think it's good to have issues with content creators in terms of like if you're engaging with them in good faith, if you're watching their videos, if you're actually engaged with the content and not just sort of hearing about outrage, doing a little bit of research, and then having your take. Like, no, I don't think so. I think if you should have a broader context of this person. Otherwise, it's like I hate dogpiling on people. I hate hatred, really. I just don't like it. You could dislike their content. I was like, it's not for me. Sure. I don't know. It just made me. That situation really made me feel that like, what the hell am I doing this for? You know, like what this doesn't. Clearly, it's not reaching enough people. Clearly the people I would want to this perspective. Like I would want people to know that these videos are out there and we like we make good stuff. But the people that I want to know that have already made up their minds and they're not going to see any of this, you know? So, like, why bother? I'm just preaching to the choir, right? A lot of the people who watch these videos, who watch Digest, I'm assuming, already watch other videos, right? They're already in this space, or they're content creators themselves, and I'm so happy those people watch. I'm surprised they watch. I'm very happy. I don't know why it got like this. I don't know why it turned into this sort of thing, but it really just kind of challenged me, I guess, and especially for how long I've been doing it. I know it's not too long, all things considered, but like going on 3 years, making a video almost every week of a similar style. Not as many people have done that, all things considered. So, I don't know. Just wanted to talk about it, especially since I've already resigned to the fact that I'm definitely not editing this tonight. I think I'm going to do this tomorrow. It's an hour and almost hour 30. Of course it was. God damn it. Anyway, great video, Connor, and great video, everybody. That was a fantastic week of AniTube Digest. Thank you very much for watching. You guys are great. You guys have a great week. Yo, peace.